Hey, I'm Dan, and this is Dan's Planes. In this video, I'm going to show a major repair of a wing. It also had some fuselage damage from a dead stick and a poor landing. I just didn't have the speed or angels, but I'll describe that here in just a second. I started this repair in the beginning of June, and it was beginning of September by the time I finally finished it, and that's in 2022. I had some other projects that came in between that, but also the repair was just pretty major. I tried using a new camera, and then I learned every time you turn the camera on, you have to change the date and time. So, not knowing that, I had about 50 different segments that all showed recorded on the same day, just different time. So that was a bit of a learning curve. I think I've got them now in the right order. I think I'm missing one segment. I don't know what happened to it. I haven't built or completed major repairs in several years, and I'm definitely kind of out of shape or rusty at doing it. I see some things now after making the repair. I see some things I could have done differently when I watch this back. But that's all good with part of this hobby. That's the part that I like. You're always trying to get better and always trying to figure out better ways of doing things and different ways of doing things. So if you have comments or thoughts, feel free to leave those in the comments. Look forward to it. Well, I've done it again. I think there's going to be a segment to this channel called "So What Happened This Time?" So I took the Top Flight P-51 ARF Mustang to yet a new field, and after a couple rough takeoff attempts, I finally took off. In this field, it was a bit tricky for landing, so I wanted to make a lot of approaches, which I'd been practicing on other planes before flying the P-51. So on my first approach, I didn't like how I came in at all, so I was just going to wave myself off. So I was coming in for a landing. I was, of course, slow coming in for a landing. I don't believe I had flaps on. I can't remember. Maybe I did, but I can't remember. I was probably about 15 feet in the air off the runway when I decided I was going to scrap the approach. So I gave it full throttle, and I had a dead stick. So as soon as the engine died, 15 feet in the air, you're already going slow because you were, for all intents and purposes, planning on landing. I was out of options. So first, I tried to immediately put my nose down to a downward attitude, try to build up any little bit of speed that I could get to try to then flare if I could. But on this runway, there was the main grass runway here, a smaller runway of AstroTurf, and then at the end of the AstroTurf, there was kind of a gully downhill, which was also rough, as far as having rocks and rough grass and dirt. And then there was kind of a slight hill that had some taller grass on it. So I was hoping I'd be able to get to maybe that taller grass to get at least a little bit of cushioning, and I could try to flare it in. But I had my rates on medium for elevator. If I would have had them on high, I might have been able to flare it better than I did. But I didn't, and I couldn't switch them that fast. There were only a couple seconds there to make a decision. So I just tried to flare it as much as I could and flare. It caught, I think, this right side or starboard side wingtip, and once it hit that, then it spun around and hitting the landing gear, it ripped both landing gear out. So we now have a broken up wingtip of where I think it hit something causing the spin. Then we have the actual wing itself. This is the repair I had just made. But I'm proud to say my gussets held. So my joint that I fixed, it was the only thing that did not break. So all of that is broken now. Then the other part of the wing, we've got the landing gear busted out. One of the landing gear bent. I guess it's this one here. So that landing gear is going to have to be rebent, hopefully. And then there's a crack on the side of the fuselage, just behind the trailing edge of the wing. So I've got my work cut out for me. So my first plan is going to be battle damage assessment. So that means I'm going to be cutting away this sheeting to see what I've got, see what it is I'm going to have to fix. Then most likely I'll remove the landing gear. I wanted to find where my air leak was, but not this way. So I think that's the plan of attack for now. Just take off the sheeting, take off the covering, find out what damage is in there. Looks like I'm going to have to create some replacement ribs in here. And definitely fix these reinforced ribs where at the factory they had put together the outside wing part to the center section wing part. So definitely be using high sol in there and some extra bracing. So that's it. Learning lessons. I didn't have something tuned right on my engine. Must have. And that's the thing. The previous flight that I had on it, which is where I broke that leading edge I had just fixed, it was my first flight with my fuel instead of fuel that came with the airplane and the trailer that the seller had given me. So when I ran it for that flight, I had some engine problems getting it started, keeping it running, and I gave it a little bit more of a rich mixture and tried it again, and on the ground it performed flawlessly. Took it up in the air and I was burning holes in the sky, and sometimes cutting throttle if you're doing loops or just doing different fun stall maneuvers or hammerheads. So the thing was running fine. It's just when I landed, I just caught the one wheel on the starboard side too hard, and that's what broke the leading edge. So I had then, this is what, Tuesday? No, this is Wednesday today. Last Thursday, I had broke out the plane and was going to fly it, and I got it started and I let it get warmed up, brought it down to idle, and I had to walk over to a table to get something, and it died on me. Then I tried to restart it and I couldn't get it restarted. When this dead stick happened Saturday, friends were there to help diagnose and to help start it, and we got it started. We had taxied it. We let it sit for a bit. Then in one of my attempted takeoffs, I wasn't used to taking off in grass, and I didn't notice I had a bunch of down elevator trim set up, and all of that ended up in me doing a nose over and killing the engine. Then the experienced gas guys were trying to get it started and they couldn't get it started, so I didn't feel as bad for me not being able to get it started again on Thursday. Their thought was that it had ran hot and the gas was percolating either in the lines or in the carburetor, so it could be evaporating before it gets in the cylinder to actually combust. So we let it cool down in front of the fan and then tried starting it up, and yeah, it pretty well started right up. So we tested it on the ground and everything seemed to be fine. In the air it was fine. There was one kind of cutout just for 1 or 2 milliseconds that it definitely did some kind of burp or cutout or gurgle or something. So I really, besides that, I didn't have any other indicators that flooring it was going to cause it to dead stick. But the thought is now from the folks who try to help me out is that I may have it set too rich, and I need to let it set for a good 30 seconds on the ground at idle, and then slam the stick forward and see what the transition is like. I felt like we did that on Saturday before the flight, but maybe I eased into it instead of slamming it, so we didn't see that it was going to dead stick. So that's what happened. Now on to the fixing part. So I'm going to remove this sheeting, and unless there's something I need to point out while doing it, I'm just going to do that off camera and then come back and show what we've got. So be back in a... Okay, I thought I would show what we're going to do here a little bit. I'm using the little hand saw, and a brand new number 11 blade, and I see that pretty much the front end is just smashed. It was broken up to here, which is flush with a rib. So I'm just using this to cut along flush along the ribs going back to the spar. Now I can see my 2 cut lines of where the spar is. So now I can do cut line to cut line. Now I should be able to do cut with the number 11, and hopefully we're going to be cut up to the spar. One more slice just to get through there. Using a metal ruler as my guide. Okay. I wasn't back all the way to the spar. I wasn't finished cutting when I decided to get the camera. I forgot about that. So I'm not all the way to the spar, which is actually okay though, because the broken rib here that we're going to replace is sticking out further from where I've cut it. So I've got a nice clean cut there anyway. But what I'll do is use the saw, cutting on the bottom, going along the rib. Take that to the spar. Okay, and that one's already cut back to the spar. Now go from cut line to cut line, and we should be going along the spar. Princess. You're in my way. Thank you. Cats are always there to, quote, help. Alright, so what do we got with this? First of all, we've got a rib that used to be here that the end wood block was glued onto. So part of that is missing now. We've got this rib here that's now missing. And then we've got a good rib here. So we're going to be putting our leading edge up here. We'll replace that. We'll get this rib replaced. We'll also basically chisel out this portion here to a good cutoff point and remake the rib piece that's missing there before we put in that leading edge. So, not a huge deal. And then we've got to sheet it. Not a huge deal on that one. This one is going to be a little more in depth. Okay, so 2 ribs here have cracked because they stayed adhered to the sheeting. And then the landing gear is the next issue. That actually, I think what I'm going to do is take the landing gear out next. It's so heavy and it keeps getting in my way when I'm trying to move the wing around or flip the wing. So I think we're just going to flip the wing over and take the landing gear out right now. Let's see how the camera's looking. Tell you what, let's try it over here. Need a handy dandy place to keep the screws, and nothing works better than these tiny sauce packets that you get from different fast food restaurants. There we go. That landing gear was jammed so hard. Bottom of the landing gear was coming out of the top of the wing. I have another one of these P-51's ARPs in the box in my garage, but so I could just pull out the other wing and put it together, and it might be quicker. But while I'm getting new to giant sized planes and gasoline engines, I think it's better to just keep beating the crap out of this one and repairing it for as long as I can, so when I'm ready I can switch to the new one in the box if I want to. But I've never really been a fan of P-51s as models. I mean, I know the airplane, how great it is, but my favorite plane is a Spitfire, and I'd rather have a giant scale Spitfire. And I feel like everybody and their brother has a Mustang out there, and this particular one, at least what I've seen in the giant scale community, there are lots of people that have this one and have this color scheme on this livery. So I don't want to do a plane that lots of people have done and do it in the same livery. So I'd prefer to do something else. So I may sell the one in my garage. So I want to pay attention to what I'm taking apart and which side of the wing it is and how all this fits together. So the pink line is going through the retract there, up over the top, that part of the retract, into the nipple there. I believe pink is up air and purple is down air. But don't quote me on that. Like I said, I'm new to pneumatics. So there's the purple, and there's the nipple that it goes to. It's really tight. I wish there would have been some more flex in there, but there's not. So I need to remember this piece here, which looks like it was shimmed here. This piece is going to be on the port side of the wing. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Dan from Dan's Planes. I just want to share some content about RC planes, something I've been passionate about since childhood. I'm hoping I can teach something to someone, I can start some discussion and learn some things from others. So let's just have some fun and learn some things together. If you enjoyed what you watched, it would really help me out if you could like, subscribe, and share. And if you feel that it helped you out in some way, or it might help future viewers, I'd really appreciate it if you'd visit my Patreon page and become a patron. It's like throwing a dollar tip into a guitar case when you pass by. It helps to fund future content and future projects that I'll be working on. I plan to show some past content. I have some other flights and I have some fly-in events that I've been to. And I also plan to show future flights and future repairs, as well as building ARFs, and if I can ever get back to it, building my top flight Spitfire. So there's a lot of content to come, but it's viewers like you that are able to support what I'm doing, and by doing that, I'm able to spend more time creating that content in the future. So I'd really appreciate it. But either way, thanks for watching, and thanks for any support, and I wish you blue skies and good speed.